Hi guys, today I thought I would talk to you about timing in manifesting. I will give you lots of tips in this video, so please try and stay until the end. Actually, this is new content inspired by one subscriber and one client I talked to this week. Different story but similar experience. One is English speaking, the other one is French. As you can see, different cultures but similar interpretation of events. Welcome back to my channel. If this is the first time, a very warm welcome to you. My name is Sabine from zennumerostar.com. If you like this type of videos, please don't forget to subscribe. And if you watch it until the end and you have some value out of it, please leave me a thumb up. I would really appreciate it. Okay, this video might go into lots of directions, but everything is linked with timing. Please bear with me. Okay, so I will talk about mental rehearsing. As you know, mentally rehearsing makes it natural and realistic. The issue is when you keep contradicting your dreams or your visualizations or whatever you want to call that, or your affirmations or your story, simply because you are still not committing or committed to any of them because you have a hard time believing and having faith. When you want something at the start, it is not tangible, meaning that its potential exists, but sometimes it does take a bit of time before it can materialize in the physical reality. The problem for manifestors who do not succeed in experiencing what they want is that they nurture their dream as being dreams only, and when they connect with their fears of it not happening, of it not being an easy manifestation. They rehearse what could go wrong instead of what can go well. They justify why they haven't achieved their dreams by describing their circumstances. Some time ago, I decided to look at my own circumstances as if there were only some excuses that would not detract me from my objectives any longer. I decided that my past was not going to dictate my future. I decided that my present was my past, and therefore now was the best moment to change the course of my potential future, because I understood that if I wasn't changing my thoughts, my future couldn't change, and that was unacceptable. Look, can you justify to me why you're such a bad person that you cannot have, you do not deserve, or you are not worthy of your manifestations? No, of course you can't. None of my clients can either. This in itself should be enough for you to wake up to the fact that you're good enough to experience whatever you want. So as I said, I talked to a new client this week who told me that it was taking so long sometimes that even though she was trying to believe in the outcome, it was more and more difficult. Of course, I understood what she meant, but as a coach, it is my duty to give you another perspective so that you wake up to the fact that timing is not the issue. Your consideration of it is. Now, if I take that good example, let's imagine that you were remembering a souvenir. Would you give up on a souvenir? Well, of course not. You cannot, because it is a souvenir. So basically, you have already experienced it. Okay, we agree on this. Now, let me remind you that a dream is as potent as a souvenir when you believe that it can be experienced or when you emotionally connect with it. And connecting with it doesn't necessarily mean that you have had a specific emotion, but at least you are open to the possibility of it materializing somehow. This is why I never use revision, by the way, because I always leave the past alone when it is the type of past I'm not happy about. I just give it another meaning, but I never change it. My philosophy is, if I keep changing the past that has already happened, this means that A, I admit that I do not manifest what I want, and because I created that as well. And B, what anchors do I actually have? You see, if you keep changing the past and you are mixing with your future outcome, trying to manifest in the now, maybe this works for you, but my very organized mind cannot make any sense of it. And even though I understand that time is not linear, on a more grounding basis, I would say, I know that I will never wake up in the past. Does it make sense? Anyway, if time is an issue for you, maybe you could test for yourself the action of leaving your past alone. Just consider that because it is done, it has no impact on your now any longer. That is, if it is a past that was unpleasant for you, obviously. Time and no movement are linked, as you know. When there is seemingly no movement after a period of time, you have a tendency to hide behind a justification of why it won't happen, not because you don't want it to happen anymore, but because you want to avoid getting disappointed in case it won't happen. Not only would you feel disappointed, but also embarrassed if you have talked about your desires with others, rehearsing their opinion instead of rehearsing your preferred outcome. The solution is not to suppress your emotions nor your fears, but to handle them adequately by acknowledging them and allowing them to be expressed. And this is an exercise that between you and yourself. Once you have handled your negative emotions and fears, you get back on what you want and focus solely on how relaxed you feel, as you know that by imagining it with the only possibility that it can happen, you have 100% success 100% of the time. It is easier to trust in the success of what you want when you are in the process of becoming the owner of the outcome. Like when you are studying to become a teacher, for instance, you know that if you are in the first year of studies, you're not going to be granted the certificate of teaching tomorrow, and you will not be starting the teaching after a couple of days. This is not even going to cross your mind, actually. So you do not anticipate disappointment or anger or frustration or resentment because it just wouldn't make sense. Am I right? So instead, sometimes you look at your progress, you make friends in your line of studies, you start mentally budgeting for a new place to live once you are a teacher, and so on. So what I need you to understand is that when you're disappointed and start resenting your manifestation or start doubting it will ever happen, it is because you have nurtured your expectations being, I'll believe it when I see it. Even if you don't see that this is what you're doing, please think with me for a second. Do you really believe that you would be disappointed right now if you knew that you are meant to experience your manifestation only next month? No, you wouldn't. You would find something you enjoy doing to make time as enjoyable as possible before getting your manifestation. You see, whether you are conscious or not, timing is of the essence when I talk to you. Mind you, it still is sometimes for me as well, and I have to purposefully remind myself that I need to focus back on my knowledge of the process and my stable identity, my resourcefulness, instead of giving importance to time. Now, I would like to talk to you about conflicting stories and affirmations, because this is also linked to timing. Let me tell you why. You and I sometimes would like for things to unfold right now, and we don't always understand the gap between a glimpse of manifestation and a renewal of no contact, for instance. Trust me, I've been there and I know the feeling. Well, there are a few things here to consider, but I'm also conscious of the time, and I don't want this video to be an hour long either, so I will concentrate on the conflicting stories here. So let me be direct. When you affirm, for instance, John and I are in a loving and committed relationship where he shows me his love for me every day and enhances my sense of value, for instance. But you contact me and you tell me, Sabine, success, I've now seen my SP, but I would like to start dating now and starting the communications. What should I do? My question is, so what are you affirming now, and what are you dominantly thinking about when you happen to think about your situation? And you answer me, well, I now affirm he is initiating contact. Oh, my answer to you is stop. Because this affirmation is contradicting what you've been recently affirming. Since you are listening to me and you're not in the middle of these stories, obviously you can spot what my client has done wrong. She simply had contradictory affirmations that would cancel out each other. The first affirmation implies that she is already in a relationship, while the second affirmation suggests she would like to take the next step and start communicating. Therefore, there is no relationship as yet. That is why there is obligatory a gap between the two situations, because the second affirmation gives energy to the communication. What that manifestor could have done instead could have been to reinforce her first affirmation by celebrating the fact they were now aware of each other's existence, by affirming that he is always so present in her life, he is so caring towards her, so communicative, he makes her feel that way, that sort of things, like the natural aspect of a loving relationship. But in her affirmations, there was a relationship then first, and then a lack of communication, since the focus was on getting communication. Therefore, there had to be a gap between the two events to make her right in her affirmations. Bottom line, please double-check, triple-check your affirmations, and underneath stories always, otherwise you may see a gap in between. This also shows you how wonderfully powerful you are. I will conclude this video by saying that there is no expiry date on any of your manifestations. So don't believe that what you see is final until you confirm it is. You have the last say, not what you are manifesting. And on that note, I wish you happy manifesting.